Also to our right we have the London Eye. It holds up to 800 people. It takes approximately 30 minutes to complete the circle and it stands over 400 feet high.
The Charing Cross Railway Bridge
also incorporates the two new Golden Jubilee footbridges. There is one this side of the railway bridge and one the other side. And they replace the old Hungerford footbridge. Just to our right we have the Royal Festival Hall, built for the Festival of Britain of 1951, said to be one of the finest concert halls in the world. The main labour force that built this bridge were female, owing to the male population being away at war. It's nicknamed the Ladies' Bridge. Through the bridge to our left, the white building is Somerset House, built by the Dukes of Somerset in the 17th century as their London residence. This building used to be the Registrar General's office. This is where we used to keep all records of births, deaths and marriages that occurred in Great Britain. Part of the building is now a museum. To our right we have the National Theatre, a complex of 3 separate theatres opened several years ago at a cost of £17 million, founded by the late Lord Olivia. The London Weekend Television Company. Temple Arch, the official boundary line separating 2 cities. That's the city of Westminster. As we enter London, the black and white painted vessel to our left, the President, she was once a former First World War gunboat. Look at the main supports of this bridge, either side of the archways. You can see they have been built to represent a church pulpit. Built this way by the express wish of Queen Victoria to commemorate the old Blackfriars Monastery, which used to stand over to our left. The marble you can see on the columns actually came from the old monastery, which was demolished to make way for the road approaches of this bridge. The second bridge is the old St Paul's Railway Bridge, the first railway bridge to be built across the River Thames. No longer used, as you can see in a moment. It was unsafe, demolished a few years ago. All that remains of this bridge is the round red pillars, used to hold the London's Chatham railway system. The third bridge, the Blackfriars Railway Bridge, Blackfriars Station, was over to our left. It's now being demolished. They've now built a new station in conjunction with the bridge. It stretches right away across the River Thames. It's now called the Blackfriars North and South Bank Station. Enter and exit the station from either side of the river. It's the only railway station of its kind on the River Thames. Back into our right we have the old Bankside Power Station, first oil-fired power station to be built on the banks of the River Thames. Now belongs to the Tate Art Gallery. This is where they keep their modern art collection. This next bridge is the new St Paul's Footbridge. It links Bankside to our right with St Paul's Cathedral over to our left. To our right, on the shore, you can see a small white painted house. This is number 49, Cardinal's Wharf, Bankside. This was once the home of Sir Christopher Wren, the 35 years it took to build St Paul's Cathedral.
Circular building with a brown thatch roof. That is the new Globe Theatre.
These steps featured in Charles Dickens' book Oliver Twist. So here it's set where Bill Sykes, the burglar, done his courting with his girlfriend, Nancy. Ahead of us, the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. Cannon Street Station is over to our left. Before we go beneath the bridge, back to our right, one of London's oldest riverside pubs. the Anchor Tavern off Bankside. There has been a pub on this site for over 500 years. This pub used to be frequented by Dr. Johnson and Samuel Pepys, two of this country's famous diarists. Once through Cannon Street Bridge, to our right we have a number of London's riverside pubs, the old Thames Side Inn, not that old really, built into an old converted warehouse. Next to it, permanent wet dock, we have a replica of Sir Francis Drake's old ship, the Golden Hind. She is open to the public. Ahead of us is the London Bridge, opened in 1973 by Her Majesty the Queen. There has been a bridge on or near this site for over 2,000 years. The previous London Bridge now spans Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert, USA, sold to an American oil company for £1 million. Here to our right we have the London Bridge City, comprises of offices, shops, apartments, restaurants, public houses, even has its own police station and Crown Court, and its own private hospital, built out of money funded by the Kuwait royal family. Also to our right we have the Shard Building, the tallest office building in Europe. It stands over 1,000 feet. She was going to be broken up, but she's been permanently moored here now since 1971 as a museum, a former reminder of British sea power. Back over to our left we have Tower Pier. Behind the pier and above the trees you can see the world famous Tower of London. Here to our right, London City Hall. These are the new London offices for the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson. Ahead of us, the Tower Road Bridge. It's often described as the gateway to London. Designed by Sir John Barry, it was opened in 1894. It has two centre spans, the upper and the lower. The lower spans can be raised in a matter of 2 minutes to allow bigger shipping in and out of the upper port. The upper spans, they was used as catwalks by the public, whilst the lower spans were raised. They was closed at the turn of the century owing to a very high suicide rate. A few years ago they was glazed in and made safe, and now once again open to the public. Folks, once we are through Tower Bridge, we will be calling in over at St Catherine's Pier. We do have a few more passengers to pick up for Greenwich. We are only here for a few moments, so please just remain seated. However, this does give you the opportunity, if anybody wishes, to visit the bar, which is situated in the undercover part of the boat, the saloon area. Dairy produce used to come into London by river was stored over here to our right, known locally as the breakfast balls. Also to our right we're approaching an old dock entrance. This is called St Saviour's Dock for Charles Dickens. This is where he wrote in his book the scene of the death of Bill Sykes, the burglar. This is also where Fagin had his gang of boy pickpocket thieves. Over to our right we have one of the old Thames sailing barges. There used to be hundreds of these vessels plying the River Thames many years ago, no longer used as working vessels, only for private hire and private functions. When they were working vessels they was manned by a captain and a boy. In this church are the remains of Captain Christopher Jones. He was the master of the Mayflower, the ship that took the first Pilgrim Fathers over to America. Several of the crew are also buried over here to our right. They were all local Rockline men. Now keep your attention to our right, tucked up between the warehouses. In a moment, we have a number of London's riverside pubs. It's called the Mayflower, named after the old sailing ship. Look on the roof of the pub, you can see a weather vane that is a replica of the old ship. The area to our right is where the Mayflower took on crew and stores before going down to Plymouth, picking up the Pilgrim Fathers and then over to America. In the boy's hand he's holding a book, and in the book are all the names of the very first settlers that went out to America. Free Trade Wharf gets its name during the Great Plague of London. During the Plague of London, no ships would come up the River Thames because of the plague. The only ships that would come up the river were from Holland, the Dutch ships. And the monarch during that era, he granted the Dutch ships a free passage up the River Thames. They never had to pay any river tolls or port fees. And this is where they used to ply their goods, hence the name Free Trade Wharf. This law still stands today. Any Dutch merchant shipping working on the River Thames don't have to pay any river tolls or port fees. I'll just give you a few facts about the River Thames itself. The River Thames is 215 miles long, and it sources up in the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire down to the Thames estuary, Southend-on-Sea. It's a tidal river. We have two tides every 24 hours. We have the flood tide, which means the tide is coming in for 5 hours. The Surrey docks were the main timber docks of London. Look over here to our right, you can see most of the dockway systems have been filled in. Housing estates have been built over the top. The Greenland dock gets its name from the Greenland whaling vessels used to come over from Greenland. The area to our right is where they used to discharge their cargo. Royal Bedford Picnic Yards, pointless in the first steps over here to our right. Our right we have Convoy's Wharf in Deptford. Convoy's was the largest working wharves this far up the River Thames. That was up until about 15 years ago. Also ahead of us to our right, you can see the three tall masts of the famous tea and wool clipper, the Cutty Sark. She was built in Dumbarton in Scotland for the China tea run. But once the Suez Canal opened, her run became obsolete. She then went on to the Australian wool run. Holds the record of being the fastest tea and wool clipper of her day. Permanently moored here in Greenwich in dry dock, and she is open to the public. Just in front of the Cutty Sark, you can see that small rounded red brick building with the glass domed roof. If you look ahead of us to our left in a moment, where you can see those trees, you can see its twin. This is the Greenwich Foot Tunnel that runs beneath the River Thames between these 2 points.
I always thought he was a sound man. And there's the captain of our ship.
Big O-shaped hole.
one over on our right-hand shore, and they work the same way as a guillotine. Come straight down from its workings into the riverbed. Now the 6 main spans, you're lucky today, there is one in the defence position, the one to the left of us. Now how they work, as we go through the span we've been allocated, if you look either side of the boat, you can see 2 large black discs, rounded black discs. Attached to the discs we have the yellow hydraulic cranes. There's also a diesel driven crane, just in case the hydraulics fail to operate. The barrier itself, it lays in a concrete sill on the riverbed. When we go through the span, we will be going over the top of the barrier. Barrier itself, out of its concrete sill into the defence position. It's quite a simple procedure, very effective. It has saved London from flooding well over 100 times. They had to hire the river wall 6 to 8 feet in some places. The other side of the barrier. If you look over here to our right, you can see the river wall, you can see those railings and the grass bank behind the railings. When they close the barrier, the river goes well above these railings, halfway up the bank. Now they do say within the next 20 years or so, because of the global warming and the higher sea levels, this barrier will not be able to hold back the high rising tides. They've got to build a much bigger barrier about 20 miles further downriver. See one of the old Merseyside ferries. This one's called the Royal Iris. Used to work up on the River Mersey in Liverpool.
Actually, interestingly, having been back, I mean, it's
The River Thames here above our heads, just about ahead of us, we have the cable car. You can board the cable car at North Greenwich, over to our left. It takes you over to the Excel Centre, over here to our right. The O2 Arena ahead of us here to our left. Before we go past the dome here to our left, you can see a piece of modern art. These are all scaffold poles welded together. Keep on looking in the centre and you can figure out the statue of a man. It's called the Millennium Man in a quantum cloud. Just keep looking in the centre and you will see the figure of a man. Also to our left, another of London's famous riverside pubs. This is called the Queen's House, after the Maritime Museum of Greenwich in Canada. This view you can see over here to our left hasn't changed in the past 500 years. As I said, they go back every 30 minutes. Last guaranteed boat today, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is your last guaranteed boat back.
Some of you have had a commentary that there are a lot of people on board with single tickets. So I will contact places to get a little bit further up the river. For those of you that have had a commentary today, I'm sure it's not. tallest building in the UK, stands 850 feet tall. It has over 50 floors. They do say that once the complex is finished, it should employ over 250,000 people. It's Canary Wharf on your right-hand side. Wooden balconies, and if you look to the top of the building, you'll see gold lettering, says the grapes. Well, as we get level with the grapes, look up into the small attic room. It's where Charles Dickens wrote 2 of his famous novels, Our Mutual Friend and Great Expectations. He did actually mention a pub in Our Mutual Friend, but the pub was called the Six Jolly Fellowship of Porters. Take you right up to Manchester. They do say that journey would take you about 3 weeks to get to Manchester. We believe it could take you 3 years. There is a pub at every lock. On the journey to Manchester, there is over 300 locks. You can actually cross beneath the River Thames at this point. You come out on the opposite side, the other one is in front of us on our left. It goes diagonal across the river. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been through the River Thames tunnel, but if you have, you would notice that it actually bends and turns the whole way through the tunnel. Now, the reason being for this, when a tunnel was built, it was built for horse and carts, and if the horse could see the light at the end of the tunnel, it would bolt towards that light. That's why they put a couple of vest beds in the middle, so the horse couldn't see the lights at the other end.
London's Riverside Pubs, the small White's building, it's called the Prospect of Whitby, formerly known as the Devil's Inn, owing to it being frequented by river pirates and smugglers. Still to this day, in the pub is the trapdoor, which the pirates and smugglers used to use to make their quick getaway, also to bring their wares. It gets its present name from the coal ships that used to come around from the north of England, from Whitby.
The Wapping Police patrol the River Thames 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like our land police. Now, the police force, they was formed on the river to control piracy on the River Thames. They've done a very good job. There's only a couple of us left. But also on our right, you'll see Oliver's Wall. If anyone knows the famous pop star and actress, Cher, she actually used to own the top floor of Oliver's Wall. Now, she lived there for a number of years. She don't actually live there anymore though. She got fed up with improvements on these boats, telling everyone where she was living. Her PA wrote a few complaints to our company asking us not to say anything. So she's now moved out of that building. But it don't really matter though, because she's moved into these green glass apartments, just coming up on the right. They're the newest ones on the river. About 2 years ago, the penthouse went up for sale for £7.3 million.
We have the Tower Hotel. It can accommodate up to 1,500 visitors to London. Built on part of the site of the old St Catherine's Dock, which is no longer used commercially, St Catherine's has been converted into a small yacht haven and maritime museum. In here we have a very fine selection of old steam and sailing vessels. There's also an old lightship. St Catherine's was the main port where most of the unfortunate convicts set sail from to start a new life in Australia.
World-famous Tower of London. The centre parts are the oldest parts, and that is where you'll see 4 towers and a Union flag. Now, it's known as the Norman's Keep or the White Tower. It dates back to 1078. There's been many things in its time, including a royal mint, a royal zoo, a royal observatory, a royal fortress, a place of execution. very important person, your head would have been screwed onto a wooden spike and placed at London Bridge to deter any would-be traitors. If you wasn't a very important person, your head would have been chopped up, thrown into the crab, and that would have been the start of the 3 o'clock kick-off. Inside, ladies and gents, we have the C-35 HMS Belfast. Now as we go beneath London Bridge, if you look to the left-hand side, between the two buildings, you'll see the old Southwark Cathedral. The only useful thing that this bridge does stops the trains from falling into the water. That is about it really. And the next bridge in front of us will be the Southwark Road Bridge. It is the least used bridge to span the River Thames. That is because the approach roads are so well hidden into the back streets, the one-way systems of London. Not many Londoners actually know that the bridge exists. It was built in 1921 to relieve congestion on the old London Bridge. Now once through the bridge, if you look in front of us on our left-hand side, you'll see a white circular building with a brown thatch roof. That is the new Globe Theatre. It is a replica of Shakespeare's old Globe, opened up by Her Majesty the Queen with a seating of 1,600 people. Also to your left-hand side, the brown brick building with the chimney, the old Bankside Power Station, being converted into the Tate Modern Art Gallery.
Designed by Sir Christopher Wren, said to be his masterpiece.
St Paul's Cathedral does stand at 365 feet tall, that being 1 foot for each day of the year. It has the second largest unsupported cathedral dome in Europe. It took 35 years to build, completed in 1710. Once through the bridge, if you look either side of the boat, you'll see 8 red support columns. These are what remains from the old St Paul's Railway Bridge, built by Isambard King of Brunel. You will see they took the top piece of the bridge away. It became unsafe from the modern day trains. They had to leave the support columns in place, fear of undermining the foundations of the other 2 bridges. It was the first railway bridge to span the Thames, used to carry the London, Chatham and Dover Railway. The last bridge in a group of 3 is the Blackfriars Road Bridge. Now as we go beneath the bridge, directly to our right hand side, the white building with the green sloping roof and the black pinnacle on top, the old City of London School for Boys. Lord Asquith, he used to go to this school. Look to the face of the building between the archway windows, you can see 4 statues. From left to right, these are of John Milton, Sir Isaac Newton, Sir Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare. Keep looking on our right. See this building which has got all these scaffolding or something going up outside it? Look above the building, can you see the small black spire? It's got a small statue on the top of a man standing on one leg with one arm up in the air. Now that statue is Mercury, the winged messenger. That stands on a building in a place called Fleet Street. That is where the newspaper industry started on. As I say, that is Mercury, the winged messenger. It's directly to our right, just above the buildings.
As we enter London, the black and white painted vessel, the President, she was once a former First World War gunboat.
If you do want to get on telly for a couple of minutes, give a little wave to the left-hand side. Nice big smile as if you're really enjoying yourselves. You might find yourself on daytime telly. If you're with someone else's husband or wife, look to your right-hand side. But also to the left-hand side behind the trees, the tall tower block with the dark glass windows. Also there's a smaller building behind the trees. These are the ITV studios. It's where they film programmes such as The X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, Dancing on Ice, Red or Black, The Cube, Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. It's all filmed on your left hand side. That's ITV. You'll see this black and white vessel. It's got all the white canopies on the top. It's called the St. Catherine. Now, believe it or not, ladies and gents, many years ago, this used to be the royal barge. Whenever the royal family travelled on the river, that was the vessel they would use. Obviously, in those days, it was in a lot better condition. All the woodwork was nicely varnished. There was loads of brass. As say, that used to be the royal barge. It's now been converted into a Colombian nightclub and restaurants. The ladies face the bridge with a very expensive, self-cleaning Portland stone. Every time it rains in London, the face of this bridge will clean itself. It was also the only bridge to be built on time and on budget. So as you can see, the ladies really did do a fantastic job. Once through the bridge, directly to our right, the white building with a green roof flying the Union flag, the rear entrance to the world-famous Savoy Hotel. To stay in the penthouse suite of the Savoy, that is the whole top floor, that will cost you about £10,000 a night. You do get a full English breakfast with 2 sausages. Now, also coming up on your right-hand side on the embankment wall, the stone obelisk is the Cleopatra's Needle, given to us by an Egyptian for Nelson's victory over Napoleon at the Battle of the Nile. Now, they do say the needle is actually older than London itself. It's over 3,000 years old. The bridge in front of us, the Charing Cross Railway Bridge, the only place on the River Thames that you'll pass between 2 railway systems. Above us we have the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Beneath the river at this point we have the Bakerloo and the Northern Line from the London Underground system. Links Embankment Station on our right with Waterloo stations over to the left. Now, you should always wave to the people on the bridges, ladies and gents. You should always give them a wave. If they're waving back, they can't throw anything down at you, which is usually strawberry milkshakes and things like that. Now, as we go beneath the bridge, coming up on your left-hand side, you can't miss the London Eye Millennium Wheel, the second largest observation wheel anywhere in the world, capable of carrying 850 people. Takes 30 minutes to do 1 round turn. We have been told it was the biggest tourist attraction anywhere in Europe last year. We've also been told since the London Eye has been opened, it's made an average profit of £17 million each year. They are seriously considering changing the name to the Wheel of Fortune.